This is the Shoulda Bet More podcast, presented by Goal Boys Network. Here's your host, Will Hill.
Welcome to the Shoulda Bet More podcast, presented by Goal Boys. Coming up on the show, Jason Weingarten, professional sports bettor, will join us. We'll go over his thoughts on the Super Bowl, get his thoughts on Major League Baseball, how he's betting this offseason, get his thoughts on basically everything in the world of baseball. He is good on these futures, awards. I think he was on right around this time last year, either right before or right after the Super Bowl, and gave out sale at like 50-1 for Cy Young. He likes to look at these long shot futures and awards, so it's always interesting to pick his brain, see what he's bet so far. And this is look, I'm not gonna spend all this time on the Super Bowl. Talked about it on the Monday show. On the Wednesday show, we'll revisit it next week, and I'll talk about it a little bit with Jason. But you've got my thoughts. I like the Chiefs. I like the over. Goddard is a guy I think could have a big game against the Chiefs, who are soft against tight ends. But I'm not going to belabor it. I'm not going to just sit here and talk about it every show from now until the Super Bowl. I just want to pace ourselves a little bit. So I'll revisit it, probably start next week, and dive even more into the props and MVP and all that stuff, but don't want to beat it to death. So this is look, 10 days away, a little more than a week away. This is one of those weekends where it's a transition weekend, where first time since really July you don't have football, whether it's a preseason or college football. And once you get to December, it's the bowls, it's college football playoffs, it's all the NFL every day of the week. It's definitely a little bit of a come down. You felt it last week too, when you have the championship Sunday. There's no games on Saturday. College season ended, only the two on Sunday, and nothing else. It's really, once you get past division weekend, it's the 2 games left, and then it's a break, and then it's 2 weeks. It feels like football season ended kind of last week or even the week before, just in terms of, hey, if you want to tease stuff, you don't have that much. It's not like you can throw together a 2-3 team teaser with this stuff unless you want to use the same game. These games, you look at the board, it's only 2 games last week and only the 1 now. So I will look, we'll get back to it Monday, dive into it, but I do like the Chiefs. It's hard to see past Mahomes in terms of the MVP. And get some guests on next week to really dive in and see what they think, which is it makes the podcast fun, because you get my thoughts, and you get really just different views of different people. And give credit, JVT and Jeff Parles on both before the playoffs had started. Parles was a week or 2 before the playoffs had started, and JVT was right after Minnesota Detroit. I've asked them both for a Super Bowl pick. I forget who they picked to win, but they both had Kansas City and Philly, both in the game. Look, it's not like it's it's not like they took both 7 seeds, but it's a 1 seed versus a 2 seed. But hey, they nailed both teams. The Chiefs were not a foregone conclusion with the Bills and the Ravens. The Eagles weren't even the 1 seed. So give both those guys credit. Both those guys nailed it. Hopefully they bet accordingly. So that will that will be something we'll talk about more next week. Talk about a little baseball with Jason coming up. I just want to give my thoughts quickly before we get to Jason. I saw this yesterday. Adam Silver is considering a 10-minute quarters for the NBA to switch from 12 minutes to 10 minutes. This league, and look, I love when the playoffs come around. The finals are great. The playoffs are great. Weren't great last year, but typically NBA playoffs, it's every night, a bunch of games. They're competitive. They're fun. I mean, they're probably too long, and there's too many teams in it. We don't need the playing teams. But I love, from April to June, NBA playoffs. It's must watch. We'll do a ton on it when the time comes. That league is just so far out of touch with what their fans, what their customers want. 10-minute quarters. These guys make so much money. You pay so much money if you go to a game, which, boy, you're taking your life in your hands going to a game, considering what you're paying and what you might get in terms of like who's playing and who's not. And even though the load management has been better this year, there's just way too many of the marquee players don't play enough to risk going to those games. And now you're going to take away 2 minutes per quarter. You're going to shave off 8 minutes per game. I don't think Silver realizes the answers we want, and they're trying all this different stuff, short in the quarters, mid-season tournaments. They do all these gimmicks with the All-Star tournament. Just getting guys to play and getting guys to care is the only thing fans want. And it's just gotten so far out of the toothpaste has gotten so far out of the tube. It's hard to put back in. Once you start giving off the impression to your fans that the games don't matter, or which look, they never had. The NBA regular season has always been the least important of the regular season. It's so long. So many teams make it. Baseball, I know they play twice as many games as the NBA regular season, and they've gotten to the point where, hey, they put more playoff teams in, which is not great, but at least you still have to be well over 500 to make the playoffs. And it was much better when it was 4. Now you're putting all these extra teams in. It does water it down a little bit. But the NBA, you play all these games. We all know the best teams anyway, and you put so many teams in the playoffs that it's never mattered. There's never been a sense of urgency, but the players at least treated it like there was. And not even going back. You sound old when you say, "Oh, back in the day, Jordan played and all those." Kobe was not that long ago. It's not like Kobe was 20 years ago or 15 years ago. Kobe was playing. He retired 8 years ago. I mean, I guess it's a little bit gone by now, but Kobe played every game. Like these guys used to play every game. This is a recent phenomenon. This is really the Spurs started it with their big three and not having them play Ginobili, Parker, and Duncan that one game against Miami. And the Clippers really took it to another level once Kawhi and Paul George went to the Clippers. Of just, hey, we'll kind of treat the regular season as the preseason. They'll play sometimes, they'll not play the others. And that has really festered throughout the league where this load management is really, and again, it's not even that bad this year, but it just gives off the impression that the games don't matter. And once you get down that road where, hey, the games don't matter, man, it's if the players don't care, why are the fans supposed to care? What's at stake for the fans? And that's where you try to drum up the interest with this midseason tournament, which to me is a total farce. Nobody cares unless you're betting it, which, hey, there's betting implications. I understand that. And if you can find a winner in terms of the betting implications, okay, then fine. But like, what is the stakes? What is supposed to happen once I win the midseason tournament? It's just, it's a league that's really, really, I don't think they're in bad shape, big picture, like in danger of falling off, but man, I wouldn't be surprised if 5-10 years from now, this could be a real crisis for them where just you get that out there, you get out the idea. I mean, you could never think in like a Chiefs Dolphins week 13 game, well, Mahomes might sit, this guy might sit. In baseball, once in a while, once every few weeks, maybe Judge takes a day off for DHs. But for the most part, the best players play. That's the whole idea of the sport is the players care, the players want to win, and the best players play. You don't get that in the NBA. And to even say out loud, hey, we're going to shorten the game from 48 minutes to 40 minutes, that'll solve something. I mean, it's not going to solve anything. I don't know where these ideas come from, and just going out of their way to find anything except getting the players to actually play. It's just, it really is mind-boggling what the NBA tries to come up with in terms of these ideas. So it's a long season. I understand that, and they're trying to think of different things, but just getting back to the basics. I don't know if you can get back to the basics of just getting these guys back to where the regular season matters or pretend like it matters is that's the only thing that's going to fix this. That's the only thing that's going to work, because make the quarters 8 minutes, 6 minutes, 10 minutes. The players still have to play. The players still have to care. There's just not enough of that in the NBA. So, I mean, there's a couple of reasons we don't talk about the regular season in the NBA that much. I spent a little time on it the other day. First of all, the games, they come fast and furious. So these pods don't have any shelf life if we're going to talk about like the Thursday night games or something. But other than that, it's been de-emphasized so much where it is treated like a dress rehearsal, like a little bit of a warm up towards the playoffs. So I don't know what the solution is going forward, but I know the solution is not 10-minute quarter. I was just shocked that this is even an idea. And Silver, that's the problem with Silver too. He's so much softer than Stern was. He's let these guys get away with so much in terms of sitting, play when you want, dictate what team you want to be traded to, which there's less of now with the rules. But Silver really let this get out of hand with the players running the league, where Stern used to run it with an iron fist. Hey, none of that would have happened with Stern. You're going to play for your team. And these guys fell in line. Stern was an actual leader of the league, and that's why I was in much better shape under Stern. And not that not that when the playoffs come around, it's going to make any difference. I'll still be into it. Well, I think a lot of people will still really enjoy the playoffs, but as far as a regular season product, it has really, really been diminished from even where it was 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago. It's really going in the wrong direction. And the idea that 10-minute quarters are going to save it is just the fact that would come out of your mouth shows what kind of shape it's in. But a lot to do with Jason Weingarten. We'll do some baseball, do some football. That is next. This is the Shoulda Bet More podcast. All right, we are back. Shoulda Bet More podcast. You can catch him at Spreadopedia. Hear him all the time on a numbers game on VSiN. It is our buddy. It is Jason Weingarten. Jason, what's up, man? 10 days or so to the Super Bowl, a couple weeks till spring training. How's it going?
Pretty good. It's actually one of my favorite times of the year, and it has nothing to do with the Super Bowl or spring training starting. It's kind of nice after football season and everything kind of dies down for a bit, I get some more free time around this time of the year. I get to sleep late if I want. It's actually quite nice. So I'm definitely enjoying January as it comes to an end, and spring training creeps right up on us, and it's what 15 days away, not even at this point. So we're gonna have betting back on baseball before we even know it.
Absolutely. And there's some Caribbean series I want to get your thoughts on. But just first off, we'll get to the Super Bowl, but just general takeaways on the Major League Baseball offseason. Obviously, Dodgers have been very active. That's been a story. Soto changes teams. Anything that's triggered a bet for you, and just general takeaways in terms of the offseason?
Yeah, I made a couple smaller bets just as some of the futures were coming out, mostly on win totals. The first one I think was Atlanta, opened like 93 and a half, or might have even been a little higher than that. I bet under 93 and a half, mainly because I looked at some of the news. I saw some of the reports coming out from the front office that Acuna and Strider aren't going to start the season on the major league roster. So I just think 93, even 92 or 91 wins from a Braves team that is going to be down two players to start the year, probably a little high. And then the Padres were like 89 or something. I could be a little off on that number, but I thought the Padres number was entirely too high and had nothing to do with Sasaki or who they did or didn't sign this offseason. Again, it was just reading a lot of the comments coming out of the front office, and the Padres front office has actively said they're looking to, shed some of their big contracts and replace their high dollar players with low dollar players. So it would not surprise me to see the Padres finish third or even fourth in the NL West. I think the Padres are headed for a bad season, far under their win total, honestly.
All the stuff with the Dodgers spending money, get Tanner Scott, they get Sasaki, they get Kirby Yates, which I don't know why Kirby Yates is the breaking point for everybody, but do you think this leads to something down the road in terms of a salary floor? I can't buy the idea that we'll ever get a cap. Does this lead to a strike, a holdout, anything like that? Are there ramifications for this down the road, or is this something where, hey, they have a lot of money, they're spending a lot of money, and this will kind of blow over?
I mean, there's going to be CBA negotiations coming up, I think, in 2026 that will be impacted somewhat over the state of free agency and team spending money. But all things considered, with the Dodgers, do I think that they're bad for baseball? No. Like, they signed Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates. That's not exactly a big deal to me. Any other team in baseball had the opportunity to sign any of those guys. They signed it at the end of January. It's not like the market was there for them, and the Dodgers decided that they'd like them. So everybody else is welcome to step up and spend money. I really don't think this is a Dodgers problem. A lot of the things with the Dodgers, I truly think are overblown and sour grapes. The reality is, if you want to be mad at the Dodgers, you should be mad at them and the amount of money they spend on their front office and their baseball operations. If you want to put a salary cap, you should put a salary cap on front office spending, salaries for front office people, as opposed to making the roster better. I think the Dodgers have exploited every avenue available to them, and international scouting and player development and pitching analytics and biomechanics with driveline and everything. It's just a matter of fact, the Dodgers are way ahead of most other organizations, and most other organizations don't have the ability or the people to compete with, a team that is that far ahead and has that many resources. So I don't know. I don't really see it as a problem. I'm also not a Dodgers fan. I like to point that out a lot. Like, I respect them for being a great team, and I live in Los Angeles, but I say this all as somebody who is not a Dodgers fan. I don't think the Dodgers are a problem for baseball.
You're good with this stuff. Rookie of the year. Anyone that's jumped out to you? Have you started to go through this? What's your process like for going through this? And Will you have a different approach now? I know we've talked in the past, like, hey, it's hard for rookies to win. They don't give it to rookies. I mean, to pitchers. There's bias against pitchers. Last year, Luis Hill wins it in a weird AL race. Obviously, Skeens wins it over Merrill. You've made your thoughts known about that. What about those things? Your approach to this, and is it different now with all these pitchers winning it?
I think Hill winning was far more egregious, all things considered, than Skeens winning. When all was said and done, I mean, I'm still kind of surprised that Hill won the award with the numbers he put up, especially having a 4+ ERA in the second half of the season. Being rewarded with Rookie of the Year is somewhat unheard of, but perhaps voters have kind of reestablished the value of pitching over hitting. I don't know. My first observation when I did look at the numbers was basically that the books, the legal books that were putting out the first numbers, basically wised up to the market and are not offering value practically anywhere. On my first glance, I saw Sasaki was like 2-1 for Rookie of the Year for a pitcher, and again, he is the number one prospect in baseball. He's gonna slot in and be a top pitcher, but that's just unheard of to have a pitcher 2-1 in January for Rookie of the Year. It's not like you can really run out and bet something like that. So I have a couple guys that I'm interested in. I'll see what sort of run they get in spring training. If anyone has a serious shot at making an opening day roster, I always, like I've said many times, I'm always looking for the guys who are getting playing time as opposed to the pedigree and the best name, the most popular guy. But yeah, we saw last year Skeens and Hill kind of bucked the trend. So I don't know. I'm happy to wait this market out a little bit. Of all the markets I've looked at, futures markets for baseball, I thought this year Rookie of the Year is the least compelling so far.
Any names you want to float out there? You want to keep it close to the vest?
Nothing really so far. I mean, like any of the guys I was looking at, honestly, they're all under like 10-1. So there really just isn't much there. It's not so much that I got a secret guy this year,
Right.
as opposed to there's just no value, at least at the moment. So I'll reconsider my position on that market in a couple weeks. But off the bat, I didn't see anything that I had to run out and bet.
Do the wild fluctuations in season, like Skeens, you could have gotten at huge numbers during the season, then you could have gotten Merrill at long numbers middle of the season when Skeens was a big favorite. Does that make you want to just save some money and bet it during the season, or not necessarily?
Not really, because I've found that year over year, my in-season betting, I just tend to open up more positions and take bets that probably I didn't need to. Last year, I did a lot better at making my bets early, and I added to a couple of positions, and I did end up betting a little bit on Skeens because the numbers. I mean, he got up to like 10-1 at one point in season. The numbers were really crazy, and I had to lock in a little bit of money, but at the end of the day, my money was mostly on was mostly on Merrill. So I did not hit the home run there. But no, I mean, it's a new season, so I'm actually interested in Skeens this year, just as a pitcher. Now that I don't have any bets on or against him, I'm really interested to see how the Pirates use him this year.
This Caribbean series, I think Friday we get these games, and they're on MLB Network, which if I'm home, I'm probably going to be watching these. Do you have any bets you're going to make and recommend in terms of these games?
Yeah, so Caribbean series Caribe is always the end of winter baseball. It's where the champions of each winter league play each other for the series Caribe title or whatever they call it. This year it's a little different. The games are being held in Mexicali I don't even know, is it the U.S. side, Mexicali and Calexico on the border in California. but with the games being played, I guess the stadium must be in the U.S. this year, because Cuba is not invited. And usually Cuba sends a team to this. This year, there's no Cuban team, and they've been replaced by a Japanese team. So I am genuinely interested, more so, or at least from a baseball standpoint, as opposed to necessarily a betting standpoint. I'm genuinely interested and curious as to how a Japanese team performs versus, the best winter league Latin American talent, because I would suspect they probably have a massive pitching advantage. These guys have probably never seen most, if not all, of these pitchers before. So I'm really interested to see how Japan plays in this tournament. I can't recall them ever being involved before. So this is new and interesting. And you mentioned it's on MLB Network. This is the first year that it's being broadcast with English announcers. So that's cool too, I guess. I've been watching it on ESPN Deportes for the last 10 years or so. But yeah, I'll probably have a couple bets. Nothing off the bat. Honestly, I haven't looked too deep into the rosters. Usually, they each league, tries to send their best talent relative to whatever MLB players they have under contract that usually aren't allowed to play in this. But yeah, it's always interesting. You see like Johnny Cueto, for example, was pitching this offseason in the Dominican League, and Fernando Rodney has been popping up for years, and Emilio Bonifacio bats leadoff in the Dominican League every winter. Like it's always interesting to me to see these names pop up and be like, wow, this guy's still playing, this guy's still pitching. It's good stuff. But I always look at the Series Caribe as the end of winter sports and the beginning of the real baseball season. So I am a little excited for baseball to be back.
Who do you like in the Super Bowl?
I guess the Chiefs. Haven't really bet much on it yet. I don't know. I mean, like you said, got 10 days to really get down on the Super Bowl. I guess prop wise, obviously there's prop numbers you want to get in early, but in general, my thoughts probably Kansas City. I'll probably find a couple defensive players at some huge numbers to bet for MVP. I say every year, sooner or later, a defensive player is going to have to win this award. There's always going to be a player now and then that has an extraordinary defensive contribution to a game, multiple interceptions, turnovers, touchdowns. So always looking for stuff like that at huge numbers. I saw someone bet Jake Elliott to be the MVP at like 550 to 1. That wasn't me, but that's definitely the kind of bet I endorse on a game like this. I don't know what would it take for a kicker to win MVP in the Super Bowl. I'm guessing like 5 or 6 field goals and a game-winning field goal on top of that. But yeah, I'm always on the lookout for long shots on the MVP market that have a better than zero chance of contributing to the game.
What's your approach to the props? Sounds like you're later than anything. I mean, it's so much to go through. I feel like it's not. I mean, you could tell me, do you feel like it's just harder to win than it was 5, 10, 15 years ago because there's so many more eyes on this stuff? It's so much more discussed.
Harder to win, probably a little bit. I mean, markets are always getting sharper. I don't spend a ton of time going crazy with Super Bowl prop markets anymore. Mainly, I just don't care. Like I bet football. I bet a pretty good amount on football, but by far, it's not like the driving force in my betting. It's like I saw someone say there's 600 college basketball games between now and the Super Bowl. There's 3 golf tournaments this week or 4 golf tournaments. There's golf tournaments next week. There's a million things to bet on. I love the Super Bowl. But as far as props and everything, I'm not the guy to talk to about, betting hundreds of Super Bowl props or even tens of Super Bowl props anymore. I'm guessing come game day, you ask me how many bets I have on the Super Bowl, side total, props, MVP. I'm guessing 20 to 25 total bets would be a lot for me. So, it's Super Bowl, but it's just one game for me.
Last one. What is on your Super Bowl menu? I like to ask all the guesses. What are your go-to snacks? Are you snacking throughout the game? Take us through that process.
Trying to think what I've done the last couple of years, honestly, other than the times I've gone to the game. Not particularly memorable. I think we got John and Vinny's catered one year recently in LA. This year, planning on going to Circa for the Super Bowl, so guess I'll be eating chicken fingers or whatever Circa is serving these days. I don't know what their food menu is for the sports book, but whatever you got, that's what I'll be having.
Are you wings, nachos, that kind of stuff, or not necessarily?
Yeah, it's all great. I don't know. I don't really like wings that much, honestly. As far as
Why
I don't know.
I don't picture you as a wing guy. I don't know why.
Yeah, man, I'll eat them, but it's really not my thing. Nachos, they're fine. Yeah, no, Super Bowl food is kind of boring, honestly. It's the same process crap.
Jason, appreciate the time, man. It was fun to catch up. We'll have to do it again as baseball approaches and we can nail down some bets in these awards. But appreciate the time. Let everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, Spreadopedia. I'm on VSiN on a numbers game with Gil on Wednesdays and Fridays. Usually Wednesdays I'm on at like 8:30 Pacific, and Fridays usually a little earlier, around 7:45. Other than that, I don't know. Probably not going to find me very many other places this baseball season, but you never know where I'll pop up. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
All right, Jason. Appreciate the time, man. Thanks. All right. Rate, review, subscribe. Thank you to Jason Weingarten. We'll be back Monday, Super Bowl week. We will be here to break it all down. Appreciate you guys listening. See you then.